Essentially, this built-in dresser is going to be a cabinet with some drawers that are built into the closet. Now, in order to streamline the finishing process, I decided to go with pre-finished plywood for the base. Now, the inside of this unit, the plywood sides, as well as the top and the drawer boxes themselves, are going to be made out of this pre-finished plywood, and that's just going to make the finishing process, or rather take that step away. So we'll go ahead and start by cutting down the plywood and assembling the base. Now, in order to do this and make this a little bit easier, rather than trying to fool with an entire sheet of plywood up on the table saw, I'm going to be cutting it on the ground on top of a 1.5 inch thick rigid foam insulation board and using my track saw to make sure I get a nice straight cut. So for the assembly process of the base cabinet, we're going to be using 1.25 inch pocket hole screws. In order to drill those, I'm going to be using the new Craig 720 Pro. So we're going to get started by drilling all those pocket holes in these pieces, and then we're going to assemble that base cabinet. So we got the base of the unit built. I put the center divider in there, and that's gonna divide the two top drawers and give us a spot to install the drawer slides. Now I'm gonna have Jamie go ahead and edge band the front edges of this plywood so that we can paint that to match the trim. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start assembling, or cutting down and assembling the drawers. Okay, so when it comes to measuring out the drawer width, what I like to do is actually stack up the sides of the drawer box as well as the drawer slides themselves, and then measure across. And that gives you a true dimension versus, estimating that a sheet of plywood is 3/4 of an inch thick, which it's not. So rather than this being a 37-inch wide drawer front and back, it's actually 37 3/16, which is kind of a big deal when you're making drawer boxes. So we'll go ahead and cut down that front and the back for the rest of our drawers. We'll do the same for the top drawers, and then we'll get those all assembled. So with the base assembled and the drawer boxes assembled, we can move on to the drawer slide installation. And for that, I'm gonna be using some clamps and this Craig drawer slide jig, which clamps onto the side and gives you a 90-degree shelf to rest those drawer slides on during installation. I'm gonna start by measuring down and finding all my drawer slide locations, marking those, and then clamping these in place and installing those drawer slides. So after getting all the drawer slides installed, then we can move the unit into the house and start installation. Now, the installation process starts by removing the trim. So I started by removing the trim from the back or the side of the closet where the back of the unit would go, and then I slid that into place and then figured out where I would need to cut the trim on the sides. I did so with an oscillating multi-tool. I was able to cut that and remove that trim before installing the unit to the studs. Now those are two pieces, L-shaped pieces, that are gonna go on the sides of the unit, and they need to get kind of coped into the wall since there's some variations of the drywall. After getting those filler pieces installed, then I moved on to the top. Now for the top, we're gonna have some variations in those corners, so I knew I needed to make up a template. The way that I did that was by ripping down some 1/4-inch plywood, and those are just some thin strips, and then I hot glued those in place to make a template from the back corners out to the front. With the plywood cut, then rather than just mounting a piece of plywood to the top, I decided to make it a little bit thicker by adding some strips of plywood below that and capping the front of it with a 1x2. Then I was able to take that top inside and mount it to the top of the unit from below with 1 1/4-inch wood screws. Now we opted for a painted finish on this built-in dresser, so we decided to paint the edge banding on the front of the unit as well as those filler pieces in the top with a white trim paint. As well, we needed to paint the drawer fronts. We're doing that all separately because once those get mounted, that will give it a nice clean look with that pre-finished plywood on the inside. After priming the top and the front edge of that unit, we needed to caulk the unit in, which brings me to our sponsor for today, DAP. They've got some excellent products, including the Alex Flex caulk that we used, and that's gonna prevent any cracking in that caulk around all of those joints where the wood meets up to the drywall. Some other of their great products that we used on this project were their Weldwood Original Wood Glue, as well as their Premium Wood Filler, which I really, really like. It's got a very nice consistency where you can use it to fill those nail holes for brad nails and so on and so forth, or you can use it to fill the grain in plywood, which we needed to do in a couple of spots on the top. With the unit installed and everything caulked and painted, it's time for the final steps, which include drilling the holes for the hardware in the drawer fronts, as well as screwing them to the front of the drawers and getting them exactly where we want them. Once those are screwed in place, then we can come back and install those drawer pulls. One thing I love about DIY or do-it-yourself in general is that you can build a custom piece fitted for your space. And this built-in dresser is custom built for this space and it works out great. We couldn't be happier with the result, and somehow we have more storage in this dresser than we do in the larger dresser that was out in the bedroom. Now, although this is a custom unit, if you want the plans for this, I'm gonna have those right there. You can click on that link. That's gonna take you on over to the website. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, make sure you hit that one right there. And until next time, be safe and happy building.